Shalom, a God back with another video. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, Ba'ashem meaning coming in the name of, and Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Today, I want to do a quick video on Gentiles, right? This is actually going to be a one part of a four-part series that I'm doing. This is just becoming the Gentiles, right? I'm going to get you a intro for this part one, and then I'm going to go into the actual lesson, right? But basically for the people that don't really have a good understanding on Gentiles, some may say the Gentiles have salvation, right? But we have to understand that the Gentiles being spoken about that are going to be able to have salvation are of Hebrew Israelite descent, right? So we have to keep that in mind, right? So without further ado, let's get into this intro, right? Strangers is the same as Gentiles in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, there were words that were used to describe Hebrew Israelites, like strangers. This guy's a stranger, right? But that just means he's not from this area here, right? If I live in Jersey and I got bros in California, are they strangers? Like, are they a whole nother people? No, they're just from a different land, right? But they're still my people. That's what we need to understand. We need to understand the context, right? Because the context is key. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's look at Leviticus 25 and 35, right? Leviticus 25 and 35. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yeah, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him. You can't take usury on this stranger here, right? But let's read this again. This is verse 35. This is Leviticus 25 and 35. It first calls him our brother, and then though he be a stranger. So our brother is a stranger in this context here. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt believe him. Then thou shalt relieve him. Yeah, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him, or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. So you can't lend upon usury with your brother, right? You're not supposed to use your brothers like that, right? Now, if we go to Strong's H1616 for the meaning of the word, right? Stranger in this context, it is gar.
Strong's H1616. Guard. And the form just below that.
So basically, right, Strong's H1616 means a foreigner, an alien, a sojourner, a stranger. But check this out. A temporary inhabitant, a newcomer, lacking inherited rights of foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights. So these strangers, right, whenever you see the word stranger and it has the meaning gar, it means that they are Israelites, right? That's why context supersedes etymology, because in this context, the stranger is a heathen, right? What I'm going to show you now is a different context. Deuteronomy chapter 23 and 20. unto a stranger, there's that word, thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all that thou settest thine hand to, in the land whither thou goest to possess it. So, in Leviticus 25:35, you can lend usury on that stranger. I mean, you can't, Salaki. You cannot lend usury on that stranger. In Deuteronomy 23:20, on this stranger, you can lend usury, right? Meaning, the stranger from Leviticus is our brother. We just don't know him, right? The stranger from Deuteronomy is an actual heathen. He has nothing to do with the children of Israel, right? So that's just a little intro piece I put together so that we have a better understanding on what the stranger was, right? And there can be an Israelite stranger and a heathen stranger, just like the New Testament where we see the words Gentile, right? There can be Gentiles that are heathens, right? Actual heathens, but for the most part, our people were called Gentiles, right? Because we took on Gentile-like customs, right? Around 170 BC, right? There was this massive forced coercion, right? And basically, this is what we're going to see in the Apocrypha, right? In the first and second book of Maccabees, right? During the Greek dynasty, during the time of the Maccabees, right? This was called forced Hellenization. Second Maccabees, we couldn't call ourselves Jews, right? We had to call ourselves something else. And this is what we're about to get into. We're about to get into why and how we became Gentiles. Why do we have the name Gentiles, right? We're gonna show you why. Let's just get into this word Gentile. Let's get First Maccabees, right? First Maccabees chapter 1. We're going to read 11 through 15. And I'm going to use the GNT, which is going to give us a better insight, or bring it down for a lot of people that don't understand the KJV version, right? This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11. At the time, there appeared in the land of Israel a group of traitorous Jews who had no regard for the law and who had a bad influence on many of our people. They said, "Let's come to terms with the Gentiles, for our refusal to associate with them has brought us nothing but trouble." So these brothers right here basically were willingly wanting to become Gentiles. They willingly wanted to adapt to the customs of the Gentile nations, right? Of the Gentile people. They're traitorous Jews. Verse 12. This proposal appealed to many people, and some of them became so enthusiastic about it that they went to the king and received from him permission to follow Gentile customs. They built in Jerusalem a stadium like those in the Greek cities. They had surgery performed to hide their circumcision, abandoned the Holy Covenant, started associating with Gentiles, and did all sorts of other evil things. These brothers went as far as to getting operations done to put skin back on themselves instead of being circumcised, just to be uncircumcised, just to break the covenants of the Most High God, right? Willingly. willingly. And our people today are still willingly Gentiles, right? They're willingly being Gentiles today, our people, because they refuse to follow the laws of the Most High God. They ask permission to follow Gentile customs. That's crazy. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41 to 50. Antiochus now issued a decree that all nations in his empire should abandon their own customs and become one people. All the Gentiles and even many of the Israelites submitted to this decree. They adopted the official pagan religion, offered sacrifices to idols, and no longer observed the Sabbath. The king also sent messengers with a decree to Jerusalem and all the towns of Judea, ordering the people to follow customs that were foreign to the country. He ordered them not to offer burnt offerings, grain offerings, or wine offerings in the temple, and commanded them to treat Sabbaths and festivals as ordinary work days. They were even ordered to defile the temple and the holy things in it. They were commanded to build pagan altars, temples, and shrines, and to sacrifice pigs and other unclean animals there. They were forbidden to circumcise their sons, and were required to make themselves ritually unclean in every way they could, so that they would forget the law which the Lord had given through Moses and would disobey all its commands. The penalty for disobeying the king's decree was death. So here we have the king making a decree that we can't circumcise our children. We can't keep the Sabbath day, right? We can't sacrifice unto our God. We can't do anything that the Most High ordered us to do. And if we do, then we would be put to death. That's what's going on here, right? So some of us forcefully, but some of us also willingly went into Gentile custom like behaviors, right? Let's continue. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 52 and 53. Many of the Jews were ready to forsake the law and to obey these officials. They defiled the land with their evil, and their conduct forced all true Israelites to hide wherever they could. So even though some of us willingly disobeyed God, some of us were forced to disobey God because we were scared of dying. Some of us, right, remained some kind of decency and stood up for the Most High, right? We were like, nah, we're going to follow the laws of the Most High God no matter what. And these true Israelites, right, went into hiding. They went to hide wherever they could because, death is coming, man. They're going to kill us because we're not following the laws of this land, which is crazy. 54. All right, now First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 54 to 64. On the 15th day of the month of Kislev in the year 145, King Antiochus set up the awful horror on the altar of the temple, and pagan altars were built in the towns throughout Judea. Pagan sacrifices were offered in front of houses and in the streets. Any books of the law which were found were torn up and burned. And anyone who was caught with a copy of the sacred books or who obeyed the law was put to death by order of the king. Month after month, these wicked people used their power against the Israelites caught in the towns. You know, this kind of remind me of, you know, when we're outside and, you know, doing what Yahushua told us to do, go to the highways and hedges and do the work, right? Tell our people, warn them that they should be following commandments. If not, they're gonna die, right? A lot of people walk past us and they scoff us. They scoff us. They make fun of us. They say some terrible things, right? That doesn't bother us too much, right? But what bothers us is that we're actually trying to help our people. We're trying to show our people love by doing this, and they don't get it. They don't understand. So they're like, they're the heathens, right? They're the Gentiles. They're treating us like that, right? They're treating us like we're not good enough unless we, you know, convert to the worldly ways. But any of our books, like they burnt our books, man. Like they burnt our books. What's gonna happen when they try to burn our books now, right? What's gonna happen when the famine of the word comes, right? They're already knocking a lot of our videos down. They're already messing around with our channels and stuff like that. What's gonna happen when they tell us we can no longer teach on the highways and byways, right? You know, some brothers are gonna fold, right? Some brothers are gonna hold on and continue, and they're gonna pay consequences for that. Some brothers are gonna go to jail. Some brothers are gonna die, right? We don't know what's in store for us when we go out there to do the work, right? We don't know if, you know, somebody is gonna walk past us and try to harm us, right? And we continue to do the work. When we're no longer there, it's gonna be just like this time, right? For those of our people that are not taking the Lord serious, that are not in their book, that are not reading their book, that have no understanding on their book, how are you going to gain the understanding if the ones that had the understanding are no longer teaching the word of God, right? They're no longer bringing it out, right? It reminds me of Proverbs 1, right? Proverbs chapter 1, when wisdom is crying out, nobody's taking heed, but then y'all gonna look for us and you're not gonna find us, right? But this is sad, man. They burnt our books, man. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 56. Any books of the law which were found were torn up and burned, and anyone who was caught with a book of the sacred books, a copy of the sacred books, or who obeyed the law was put to death by order of the king. We were being killed for following our God's laws, man. And that's all they wanted. They wanted us to stop following the laws of the Most High God so that they can win their battle against us. Because if God is on our side and he's fighting our battles, there's no way that these heathens could even touch us. But we've fallen into this, man. We gave in. Month after month, these wicked people used their power against the Israelites caught in the towns. On the 25th of the month, these same evil people offered sacrifices on the pagan altar erected on top of the altar in the temple. Mothers who had allowed their babies to be circumcised were put to death in accordance with the king's decree. Their babies were hung around their necks, and their families and those who had circumcised them were put to death. But many people in Israel firmly resisted the king's decree and refused to eat food that was ritually unclean. They preferred to die rather than break the holy covenant and eat unclean food. And many did die. In his anger, God made Israel suffer terribly. Man, they was hanging our babies for being circumcised, bro. If we circumcised our children, we were put to death, and our babies were hung by their necks for following the laws of the Most High God. This is what our people went through. This is the persecution our people went through. And it seems like today's day, obviously this book is telling us who the enemy is, right? But today, we just want to kill each other, right? We want the prosperity of the wicked, right? Like First Mac chapter 1, where our people willingly were like, look, sign us up, man. We wanna get down with the Gentile customs. Sign us up, right? We wanted it so bad that today's day we don't even care that they were hanging our babies by their necks. We don't care that they killed our people for breaking God's laws. It's sad. Let's get 2 Maccabees now. Chapter 4, 10 through 16. The king gave his approval, and just as soon as Jason took over the office of high priest, he made the people of Jerusalem change to the Greek way of life. So the people of Jerusalem here are changing to the Greek way of life. They're becoming Greeks now. He began by abolishing the favors that John had secured for the Jews from previous Syrian kings. John was the father of the Eponymus, who later went to Rome to make an alliance and to establish ties of friendship. Jason also did away with our Jewish customs and introduced new customs that were contrary to our law. So not only, were we killed for following our law, they made new laws that were opposite of our laws. Like now it was like if we followed their laws, we were breaking our laws, and that's what we had to live by. That's insane. With great enthusiasm, he built a stadium near the Temple Hill and led our finest young men to adopt the Greek custom of participating in athletic events. Because of the unrivaled wickedness of Jason, that ungodly and illegitimate high priest, the craze for the Greek way of life and for foreign customs reached such a point that even the priests lost all interest in their sacred duties. They lost interest in the temple services and neglected the sacrifices. Just as soon as the signal was given, they would rush off to take part in the games that were forbidden by our law. So these people are giving us so much entertainment, so much distraction, that we lost interest in our own customs. We lost interest. We lost interest in the Most High God because of the distractions of life, right? And today, there are so many distractions and things that are what we would consider entertaining, that it's almost impossible for our people to snap out of that trance and let's say, look, let's give one day to God, right? And I don't mean one day to God like, oh, let's go to church on Sunday. No, I mean like, read your book, man. Read your book. Blessed is he that readeth. Read your book, man. Look at the stuff all people went through. All because we followed God's laws. Now we turned away from God's laws. And now look at the stuff we got to go through now, right? Verse 15. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 15. They did not care about anything their ancestors had valued. They prized only Greek honors, and this turned out to be the source of all their troubles. For the very people whose ways they admired and whose customs they tried to imitate became their enemies and oppressed them. So we're sitting here trying to be like these people so bad. We love these people so bad. We rather follow them and their customs instead of God, and they oppressed us. They oppressed us, man. They put our asses in slavery. Second Maccabees chapter 6, 1 through 5. Not long after that, the king sent an elderly Athenian to force the Jews to abandon their religion and the customs of their ancestors. He was also to defile their temple by dedicating it to the Olympian god Zeus. The temple on Mount Gerizim was to be officially named Temple of Zeus, the god of hospitality, as the people who lived there had requested. Again, they're persecuting us and forcing us to abandon our ways of life, right? To abandon the holy covenant, right? To abandon our laws, our God, so that we can fit into whatever they got going on. Verse 3, the oppression was harsh and almost intolerable. Gentiles filled the temple with drinking parties and all sorts of immorality. They even had intercourse with prostitutes there. Forbidden objects were brought into the temple, and the altar was covered with detestable sacrifices prohibited by our law. It was impossible to observe the Sabbath, to celebrate any of the traditional festivals, or even so much as to admit to being a Jew. You couldn't even say that you were a Jew, or you'd be put to death. Imagine that. Somebody telling you you gotta say you're not you. And if you don't agree, they'll kill you. Second Maccabees 6, verses 8 through 11. On the advice of Ptolemy, the neighboring Greek cities were also introduced to require Jews to eat the sacrifices. They were told to put to death every Jew who refused to adopt the Greek way of life. It was easy to see that hard times were ahead. For example, 2 women were arrested for having their babies circumcised. They were paraded around the city with their babies hung from their breasts. Then they were thrown down from the city wall. On another occasion, Philip was told that some Jews had gathered in a nearby cave to observe the Sabbath in secret. Philip attacked and burned them all alive. They had such respect for the Sabbath that they would not fight to defend themselves. These brothers were willing to die, man. They were willing to die for it. But now, the women were paraded around the city with their babies hung from their breasts. This is what our people went through. Our people went through this. They hung our babies to the breasts of their mothers and made them walk around like that, with your dead child hanging off of your breast. And today, our women, they love the oppressor so bad. They love him. They love the heathens, man. They try to defend this demon. They try to defend these heathen dogs all the time. Our people are sitting out here killing each other, right, for a corner block that don't belong to them. And this is what our people were going through. Second Maccabees 6:12 through 14. I beg you not to become discouraged as you read about the terrible things that happened. Consider that this was the Lord's way of punishing his people, not of destroying them. That's big, because I need people to understand he's not destroying us, right? All Israel shall be saved, but we will go through punishment for not obeying God's laws. And these are the punishments that we had to endure because we went against our God. God was not there to fight our battles. He was angry with us because we've gone off, right? We rather bow down to stones and shit like that, right? When you disobey the Father, there has to be some kind of consequence. Consider that this was the Lord's way of punishing his people, not of destroying them. In fact, it is a sign of kindness to punish a person immediately for his sins, rather than to wait a long time. The Lord does not treat us as he does other nations. He waits patiently until they have become deeply involved in sin before he punishes them. But he punishes us before we have sinned too much. So the Lord is always merciful to us, his own people. Although he punishes us with disasters, he never abandons us. I have made these few observations by way of reminder. We will now get on with the story. Right? So that's just becoming Gentiles, right? That was it for becoming Gentiles, right? This is part 1 of a series, of a 4-part series. But it's just sad. It's just sad. But bottom line is, this is how we became Gentiles, right? Even before that, there's ways we became Gentiles. Going off of what the Lord tells us to do is how you become a Gentile. If the Lord says follow these laws and you break his laws, you're a Gentile. That's how we became Gentiles, right? I'm not trying to say that this is the beginning of where our, where it started of us becoming Gentiles. No, wherever in history, our people went off and disobeyed God, they became Gentiles. They became like the heathen nations, right? But this is a 1 part of a 4-part series of, the Gentiles in the New Testament, salvation, right? Who's salvation for? This is Gentiles, becoming Gentiles, right? So-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, we are the 12 tribes of Israel. We are the Hebrews the Bible speaks of. We need to come back to the laws of the Most High God and stop following after the customs of the Gentiles. Sad stuff, man. We've gone through a lot of stuff, and our people today are still going through many, many things. And we're going to continue to go through these things if we do not come back to the laws of the Most High God, right? I mean, look at the mockery. They hung our babies from the breasts of their mother and made them walk around with their dead babies hung at the neck from their breast. That's mockery, man. They made us a laughing stock, man. We the talk of the town. We're a joke. And if you know, see how our people are living now, we're still the joke, man. When are we gonna wake up? It's time to wake up right now. It's time to wake up right now, man. You see they done burnt our books up, right? What's gonna happen when that famine of the word comes this time? People are not prepared. People don't know what's going on. You got a Bible, you want to read it, you don't understand it. You got a Bible, you want to read it, you don't know where to start, right? Come back to the Most High God, man. Follow these laws, right? With that, shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua. That's giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, Ba'ashem, meaning coming in the name of, and Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Shalom. Muaf Lababo.